ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं सागरजातां सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Second 10th chapter, second verse. We are reading Bhagavad-gita, 10th chapter, second verse. Okay. Name viduhu surganaha prabhavam na maharshayah aham adihi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashah। नमे विदुः सुरगणाः प्रभवं न महर्षयः अहम आदिः देवानां महर्षीणां च सर्वशः। नमे विदुः सुरगणाः प्रभवं न महर्षयः अहम आदिः देवानां महर्षीणां च सर्वशः। Someone can recite. नमे विदु सुरगणा नमे विदुः सुरगणाः नमे विदुः सुरगणाः प्रभवं न महर्षयः अहमादि देवानां सर्वशः। नमे विदुः सुरगणाः प्रभवं न महर्षयः अहमादिः देवानां महर्षीणां च सर्वशः। Okay, word to word meaning. Na, never. Me, my. Viduhu, no. Suraganaha, the demigods. Prabhavam, origin. Opulences. Na, never. Maharishayaha, great sages. Aham, I am. Adihi, the origin. He, certainly. Devanam, of the demigods. Maharishinam, of the great sages. Cha, also. Sarvashaha, in all respects. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Purport. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord. No one is greater than him. He is the cause of all causes. Here it is also stated by Lord personally that he is the cause of all the demigods and sages. Even the demigods and great sages cannot understand Krishna. They can understand neither his name nor his personality. So, what is the position of so-called scholars of this tiny planet? No one can understand why this Supreme God comes to earth as an ordinary human being and executes such wonderful, uncommon activities. One should know then that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Even the demigods and the great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, and they have failed to do so. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also, it is clearly said that even the great demigods are not able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They can speculate to the limits of their imperfect senses and can reach the opposite conclusion of impersonalism of something not manifested by three qualities of material nature. Or they can imagine something by mental speculation. But it is not possible to understand Krishna by such foolish speculation. Here the Lord indirectly says that if anyone wants to know the absolute truth, here I am present as the Supreme Personality Godhead. I am the Supreme. One should know this. Although one cannot understand the inconceivable Lord who is personally present, he nonetheless exists. We can actually understand Krishna, who is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, simply by studying his words in Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The conception of God as something, as some ruling power or as impersonal Brahman can be reached by persons who are in the inferior energy of the Lord. But the personality of Godhead cannot be conceived unless one is in the transcendental position. Because most men cannot understand Krishna in his actual situation. Out of his causeless mercy, he descends to show favor to such speculators. Yet, despite the Supreme Lord's uncommon activities, these speculators, due to contamination in the material energy, still think that impersonal Brahman is the Supreme. Only the devotees who are fully surrendered unto Supreme Lord can understand, by the grace of Supreme Personality, that he is Krishna. The devotees of the Lord do not bother about impersonal Brahman conception of God. Their faith and devotion bring them to surrender immediately unto the Supreme Lord. And out of the causeless mercy of Krishna, they can understand Krishna. No one else can understand him. So, even great sages agree. What is Atma? What is Supreme? It is he whom we have to worship. Hare Krishna. We are discussing chapter 10th of Bhagavad-gita, the opulence of absolute. If we see in the following verses, there Krishna speaks about his opulence. What are they? He says, Senanam skandosmi and Rudranam Shankarasmi. He says, among Senas, I am Skanda. Among Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Then it's like if you, Krishna and Shiva is none other than same. The statement it's clearly saying, Senanam Skandosmi, it means that I am the Skanda. Krishna himself is saying I am Skanda. Then directly it means what it means. Krishna is none other than Skanda. Krishna is none other than Shiva. And he also says, I am Kartikeya. Krishna also is saying, I am Kartikeya. And even in Krishna also says, I am son of Devaki, I am Devaki Nandan. There you are accepting Krishna as Devaki Nandan. Here we don't accept, no, here meaning is something else. How to understand this? Is it Krishna is same as Skanda? Or Krishna is, what he is saying is meant that he is really a Shankara or Skanda? How to understand? Here many such statements comes in the following chapter. He also has many opulences. Which are the best? He says, I am that. And Krishna says, I am the Senanam Skandosmi. Among the Senas, I am the Skanda. Among Rudras, I am Rudra. It means that worshipping Krishna and worshipping Shiva is both are same. How to understand? Here, for that, here also Krishna doesn't say that these opulence are mine. He says these are me. He is saying that I am that. Actually, for that we should, it means that both worshipping Krishna and Shiva both are same. For that we should understand what is the personality of Krishna. Is he an ordinary person, or is a person who does some extraordinary activities? How to understand? Just like when there is when a lion is attacking a cow, which side do you take and try to protect? You are there on the scene and lion is attacking cow. Which side do you take and protect? Which? Either lion is attacking cow. Which one do you want to save? Cow, yes. But when both cows are fighting each other for grass, which one do you, you are on the scene, how to protect? Which cow side do you take and protect which animal do you protect? Cow A and cow B are fighting. Which one do you want to protect? Yes. What do you do? You separate both of them, try to provide the grass separately and try to protect both of them. Similarly, when there is a fight between Shastra and Nastikvad, which side do you take side? Shastra, and we reject Nastikvad. Similarly, if there is a fight among Shastras, which side do you take? Both we have to accept. Both we have to accept. Similarly, that here in Shastra also, whatever Shastra speaks, it's not that just speaking. We should accept the words of Shastra. Bhagavad-gita is also Shastra, Gita Shastra. And similarly, when there are worldly things are there, like worldly things, Shastra never reject worldly things. But Shastra gives higher understanding to the worldly things. It doesn't reject, but gives higher understanding to the worldly things. Just like you are on the 8th floor and you want to go to somewhere and you want to catch a taxi, and a taxi is in the ground floor and you call out. What do you call out? A taxi. And the taxi driver comes to your room and asks, sir, vehicle is ready. Can you board the vehicle? And you cannot say that, hey, I called for taxi. I didn't call the person in the taxi. Here, taxi and the driver both are same. Here, and when you call taxi, you call a taxi wala, come here. Because taxi driver is possessing the taxi. He has full control on the taxi. There you consider both taxi and driver both are same. But same when Prime Minister of India, he says, Modi says, I am the Prime Minister of India. Here, I and Modi both are same. Here, the driver and auto are different. Just like you, after getting down from auto, to whom you will give money? To taxi or driver? Driver. Both are different. But when Prime Minister of India, if he says that I am the Prime Minister of India, Modi says I am the Prime Minister. Here, I and Modi are both are same. Similarly, when Krishna says, I am the Skanda, he is the possessor of Skanda. Without the sanction of Krishna, Skanda, all these demigods, they cannot act. Here the meaning of Senanam Skandosmi, it means that Krishna is the possessor. Without the sanction, without the power of Krishna, Skanda cannot act. Even other Kartikeya also, he cannot do any activity without the power of Krishna. Here, if he says that Krishna says, I am Senanam Skandosmi, I am Skanda, here it means that we are just like we are referring to auto and driver. We calling taxi wala. But when Krishna says, I am Devaki Nandan, it is none other than saying the statement, I am Prime Minister of India. Both are, like I and Prime Minister both are same. But whereas taxi and driver are different. Similarly, here, we can find a difference here. Shastra never rejects the worldly thing, but it gives a higher understanding. That's what here we can understand the opulence. When Krishna says, I am the Skanda, I am Kartikeya, I am Shiva, we can understand from a higher perception. Here, we can see, here in the purport we discussed that here demigods, even demigods are bewildered to understand Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we can see the story of Brahma Vimohan Leela. In Brahma Vimohan Leela, though Brahma he is the creator, secondary creator of this world, when Krishna was in the Vrindavan and he is with his friends and eating lunch with his friends, Brahma could not understand whether he is Supreme Personality of Godhead or not. He is taking the juta of other cohort friends and he is eating, and by that he was bewildered. And he could not understand. Even Brahma can also get bewildered in order to understand the position of Krishna. And then what he did, he has stolen in order to test whether he is really a Supreme Personality of Godhead, what he did, he has stolen the cows, he has stolen the cohort boys also. And Krishna understood it is the plan of Brahma. He himself expanded into as many cows and as many cohort boys. Exactly the way the boys look like, the height and whatever actions they do, they expanded. Krishna expanded as many cows as many boys. And after that, when Brahma saw, he came back and he saw that still cows are there and cohort boys are there. But I have stolen these boys already. How these boys and cows are existing? Then again he went and he saw. And then he was bewildered. And he understood that it is these activities are of the Krishna. And he understood that he had made a mistake. And he fell at the feet of Krishna. Then all the cohort boys and that cows, they manifested 400 forms, Vishnu forms. And Krishna, Brahma, he praised the Lord Krishna. Here we can see even Brahma cannot understand Krishna. And we can see even sages, even in Srimad Bhagavatam also, we can see that Brahmanas, Yagnik Brahmanas, who were doing sacrifice, when Krishna and Balaram were in the forest, they were doing sacrifice. And when the friends of Krishna request Krishna that we are hungry, we need food, then Krishna said that nearby there are Brahmanas are performing some sacrifice. You go and ask them, they will give. When these cohort boys, when they approached this sacrificial arena, Brahmanas, they didn't speak. And they were asking, Krishna and Balaram are there in the forest. Please give me some food. They are hungry. Yajna, for whom we do yajna? To whom to satisfy? Like we perform yajna to satisfy Krishna. He himself is asking that, please provide some food. But they neglected. And they came, they returned and they informed to Krishna. Krishna, they didn't give. And in fact, they were unhappy. And Krishna pacified them and he said that, see, whenever a beggar goes for begging, it's not that everyone will give. Some will reject, some will give. Don't worry, you go now to same place and approached the wives of these Brahmanas. And Brahmana wives, as soon as these cowherd boys heard that Krishna are there nearby forest and they are hungry, immediately they carried. Because they heard about Krishna from the cowherd woman. They were selling curd, butter. They heard about Krishna. And immediately they carried. When these wives of Brahmanas, they came back. And Brahmanas, they understood that Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead. But still they could not go. Why? Why they didn't go? Out of fear of Kamsa. They knew that Krishna is here nearby. But whereas the wives of Brahmanas, they never afraid of Kamsa. Out of love for Krishna, they went and they gave food for Krishna. Here we can see even great sages are Brahmanas, like though they know many scriptures and they many shastras, but they cannot understand Krishna. How one can understand? Only by the grace of Krishna and his devotees. And here also in the here is last para, Prabhupada is writing that scholarly people, they may speculate and finally end up with impersonal Brahman. Here we can see in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Varanasi and he was performing Sankirtan. There, when he was performing Sankirtan, and Prakashananda Saraswati was very scholarly and he had thousands of disciples. And he was blaspheming Krishna. He was blaspheming Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Tapan Mishra and who else? Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar Acharya, they were there. They heard the blasphemy and they felt that they were not happy. And when Brahmana invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prakashananda Saraswati. In fact, Prakashananda Saraswati, he was telling, is a sentimental person. He was telling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is commenting on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a sentimental person. He is dancing. Whereas a sannyasi, we should read Vedanta. Whereas we, sannyasis, we are reading Vedanta. He is sentimental. He is just dancing on the streets of Varanasi. He doesn't know anything. But Prakashananda Saraswati knew very well that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu converted Sarvam Bhattacharya into a devotee. Whereas Sarvam Bhattacharya, he was a very great, very scholarly person. He is a Vedanta. He knows Vedanta. Many sannyasis, they come and learn under Sarvam Bhattacharya. Those who take sannyas, even sannyasis, they come and learn from Sarvam Bhattacharya. Even Sarvam Bhattacharya himself, from Chaitanya, he heard from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he himself converted into Vaishnava. But whereas Prakashananda Saraswati is saying that even Sarvam Bhattacharya, he also doesn't know anything. He is just defeated Sarvam Bhattacharya. But we are not such people. We are not sentimental. And in fact, when Chaitanya Prabhu was dancing, many people are following. And they were attracted to the form and beauty of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But whereas Prakashananda Saraswati could not understand the greatness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And finally, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went for the invitation, Prakashananda Saraswati with his thousands of disciples were there. And Prakashananda Saraswati, there was a conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prakashananda Saraswati. And finally, he got transformed by the association. Initially, he did seva. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he sat at the place where they were washing their feet, he sat there. And Prakashananda Saraswati, and he saw the effulgence coming out from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By seeing that, Prakashananda Saraswati, he came down and he he asked Chaitanya, he, with his hands he personally took to the elevated place and made him sit. Here what he did? He rendered service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he is doing service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is doing bhakti. He served a devotee, that too Supreme Personality Godhead. By that, he got that bhakti. Otherwise, there is no chance for Prakashananda service to get bhakti, because we cannot, by any other activity, we cannot get bhakti. Only bhakti only can give bhakti. Here, we can see, even though he had so many thousands of disciples, and he had many, he was very learned, but he could not understand the greatness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that, I have many fruits, but I want to sell these fruits. What are the fruits? That he wanted to distribute the bhakti, but there were no customers. There were no customers in this Varanasi. And finally, when Prakashananda Saraswati was transformed, and all the thousands of disciples of Prakashananda Saraswati, they became Vaishnavas in Varanasi. And even before Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, before he became a devotee, Gopinath Acharya, he was cousin, he was a relative of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Initially when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Puri, even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was not accepting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, Gopinath Acharya, he quotes many shastric evidence that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Supreme Personality of Godhead. But still, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya could not understand. Then finally Gopinath Acharya says that, he says Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, okay, you didn't get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's why you are not accepting. Then Sarvabhauma, how do you know that you got the mercy? Because I have full confidence that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless until you get the mercy of a devotee or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you cannot understand who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here also Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, here we can see when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell unconscious in the Jagannath Puri temple, what he did? He carried Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home. He took care of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in fact, he wanted to protect Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken sannyas at very young age. And he wanted, out of fatherly affection for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted to protect Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because here also we can see that he rendered service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's how he got transformed. Without any service to a devotee, or by one may do so much charity, social service, but he cannot get bhakti. Only by serving a great souls, by performing some devotional service, then only he can understand devotional service and perform bhakti. Okay, any doubts? What is that? Any doubts do you have? What is the time? Huh? Okay. Here you can see, even in here also it says, Yagnanam Japa Yagnosmi. Even performing in this, here also, opulences of Krishna, he says that Yagnanam Japa Yagnosmi. It's very easy to remember some of the slokas. Many slokas says Yagnanam, Senanam, of, means there it comes a proposition of among Senas, I am the Skanda. Here it's very easy to remember slokas also. He says that of all sacrifices, I am Japagna. There are many sacrifices, Arshvamedha Yajna, Gavalam Yajna, and many sacrifices are there. Of all the sacrifices, Krishna says Japa Yajna. Japa Yajna is the highest. It's not that just chanting, it is also Yajna. That's why we call Sankirtan Yajna. and Japayagna. Krishna himself, of all sacrifices, of all performance of sacrifice, Japayagna is the topmost. And he also says that whichever the higher, whichever the topmost, that is I am. He says Asuranam Prahaladasmi. Among Asuras I am Daityanam Prahaladasmi. He is among Daityas, among Asuras I am Prahalad. There are many statements we can hear. Whichever the best, Krishna says I am that. Because all this comes from Krishna. And without the sanction of Krishna, we cannot possess all these things. Yes. Yes. Here, in the case of taxi, if he says taxi wala, to whom you are referring? Means actually driver is there, taxi is there, and you are calling taxi wala. Actually driver, you are indirectly you are referring to driver. Because why you are calling driver? That taxi is under the possession of driver. Without the permission of driver, you cannot do anything with the taxi. And the driver has full control on he is the possessor. He has that proprietorship. The driver has the proprietorship on the taxi. That's why you call taxi wala. But here actually driver and taxi are different. This worldly usage, you are calling taxi wala. This worldly usage. But whereas Prime Minister of India says, I am the Modi says, I am the Prime Minister. Here he himself is telling that I am the Prime Minister. There is no difference between I and Prime Minister, Modi and Prime Minister. You understand this statement? No, I am means the Modi. Modi is referring, I am the Prime Minister. Post means he is the, like he is he is also referring to Prime Minister. I am the Prime Minister. Suppose, let us say I am Modi. What is the difference between I and Modi? If I say, yes, he has the control on them. Just like a taxi driver has the control on taxi, even Krishna also has the control on Skanda. Without the sanction of Krishna, they cannot do anything. They are who is possessing all this? Because under the direction of Krishna, they are acting. That's why Krishna is saying, I am Skanda, I am the Shiva, I am the Kartikeya. From that context. Yes. That's why here also we can mean that, means it is higher understanding. It's not that we cannot take words as it is. We have higher understanding. That is. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki